Welcome to Getting Started in Altium Designer 19. We will walk through the design process, starting with a blank project, adding schematics and the default PCB. We will capture the design, and once complete, we will compile the design, performing the electrical rule checking prior to the transfer to the PCB for layout. Once layout is complete, run DRCs and then generate the needed files for fabrication and assembly. Let's start with a new project. To create a blank project, click File, New Project. This enables the Create Project window to pop up. While there are many options here, we will start with the typical PCB project with the default PCB. Here we can name the project and determine where it is saved, as well as if we want to create a folder for this project to be saved into. We will call the project Expansion Board and have AD create a subfolder under the Exercises folder by selecting Create. This panel is a Projects panel. Altium uses panels to provide access to information and tools. These panels are specific to the current document that is open and active. Now in this project we can add schematics by right-clicking on the project file name and selecting Add New to Project, then select Schematic. This will add a new blank schematic to this project with the default name. To change the name, right-click on the current name and select Save As. Now we can save this with a proper file name. At this point you will notice in the Projects panel we have renamed the new schematic sheet. You will also notice there is an asterisk on the project file name. This indicates the project file needs updating due to the addition of the new schematic sheet. The project file contains a list of all the project-related documents and needs to be saved to add the new schematics information to its list of project files. Right-click on the project file and select Save. Now the schematic has an entry in the project file and the asterisk is gone. In Altium Designer, whenever there is a change to a document, you will see the Open Document page icon turn red and an asterisk symbol indicating that the current open version of the document has not yet been saved. To access the list of possible panels in Altium Designer, left-click on the Panels button on the bottom right of the window. This opens up a menu with the various entries. Note, the panels with the check marks are currently open. If the Properties panel is not opened, I would encourage adding it now by selecting it from the list. The window layout is a personal choice, and I would encourage you to spend some time deciding what panel arrangement you prefer. We can move the panels by selecting the title bar and dragging them. I generally grab any floating panels and place them on the left or right side of the window. As you can see here, moving a panel towards the side will highlight it, and if desired, letting go of the mouse button will dock the panel at the chosen location. At the top of every panel are some icons. With the thumbtack vertical, the panel is pinned in place. Clicking on it rotates it 90 degrees and allows the panel to hide, but still be available. As you see here, the Properties panel has a tab that can be clicked on to open it. Clicking on the X icon will close the panel. Clicking on the thumbtack toggles the behavior of the panel. We can now add a PCB to the project. Right-click, Add New to Project, select PCB. As you can see, we now have a blank PCB. Save the PCB by right mouse clicking on it and selecting Save As and naming it Expansion Board. At this point it is advisable to save the project to add this file to the project file list. The project is an important concept in Altium. The project file contains a listing of all the project related documents. Note, the project does not contain the actual files, only links and their locations. Clicking on either the entry in the Projects panel or on the tab above the active window will switch the view to that file. Here we click on the Schematic tab to change the schematic to the active window. Clicking on the PCB in the Project panel will make the PCB the active window. To open a file not already opened, double-clicking it in the Project panel will open it. We need to briefly discuss the role of preferences in Altium Designer. Clicking on the gear icon opens up the Preferences window. The preferences are stored on the local machine independent of the projects and controls the tool's operation and options. At the System tab, we see a number of sub-entries. We will not cover this particular tab in detail, but if you are interested, hit F1 to open up the Altium documentation on this panel for more information. We will open the Schematic and PCB tabs just to show what informations are available. Click on the Cancel button to exit without making any changes. As needed along the course, we will make changes to these preferences. Before we jump into creating a project and performing the design, we will cover briefly the options for different types of libraries in Altium Designer. starting with a brief look at the basic libraries for schematic symbols and PCB footprints, which can be combined into integrated libraries. A brief mention of the more basic library formats would include the schematic and PCB libraries. They are both required for a component to be used for design capture and placement on the PCB. The schematic library holds a symbol used for design capture. The PCB library holds the footprints that are used on the PCB when placing the components. These can be compiled into an integrated library. That is a single file with the extension of intlib. We will use the default installed integrated libraries for some of our design capture. In addition to these local libraries, there is an online resource for components called the Altium Content Vault, which can be accessed through the Explorer panel. This is a large collection of existing parts with both schematic symbols and their associated footprints. This is where we will get the bulk of our components for this design. Altium supports another type of library called a database library. There are a few types of database libraries: dblink, dblib, and svndblib. The dblink library provides an efficient means of linking and keeping the components used in your design synchronized with the data entered in the database. The dblib and svndblib approach takes this proven linking efficiency and adds it to the freedom to be able to place a component directly from the database. In essence, creating the component directly from the information stored in the corresponding database record. The dblib and svndblib are essentially the same, the difference being that this svndblib is an extension of a dblib with the schematic and associated models stored in the libraries under svn control. The resulting database library simply needs to be made part of the available libraries by installing it so that it is accessible from the Libraries panel. There is another means of storing and accessing components at a company level within Altium. This is similar to the Altium Content Vault, but instead of being online and public, it is a company private vault called Concord Pro. In many ways, this provides a number of features: company-centric control of parts, a common part source with version control, and tracking features such as where used. As demonstrated, Altium supports a number of libraries. It is up to you to decide what works best in your environment. This concludes the Starting a Project lecture. In this video, we started a new project, added both a schematic sheet and a PCB to the project. In addition, we also had an overview of the library options available in Altium Designer. In our next module, we will start the schematic capture.